Welcome to episode 113 of Build Your House Yourself University by BYHYU. I'm your host and fellow student, Michelle Nelson, and together we'll learn the basics of home design and construction and demystify the building process so we can build quality dream homes with or without a general contractor. The whole reason for this podcast is for you to learn from my mistakes and for you to make your building process a little bit easier based on my experience and the things I would do differently. So I'm going to give you a project update. This is just a little something, a little bit of a fluke, but I think it's important for you to know about. About a week and a half ago, I went to the building inspector's office to pick up the building permit application. I thought that that's what the building inspector told me when I called him a few weeks ago. Either he miscommunicated or I misunderstood. In any case, we can't separate the house plans from the building permit application, is what the clerk told me. So instead of me giving them the plans, she just told me to keep my plans until the building application was completely finished. She didn't want to separate the plans and the application. So I took the 4-page building permit application and I thought I could fill it out probably in a few minutes, but I can't. And here's why. Because I naively was unaware of the fact that the building permit needs information that I don't currently have, including the names of the electrical subcontractor, the mechanical subcontractor, and the plumbing subcontractor. I don't know. I thought that I would be able to fill out this permit while they were looking at my plans and correcting whatever I needed to correct or telling me what I needed to correct. And I could do the bidding process after the building permit application. But that's not true because I have to tell them what subs I'm going to use. So that throws a wrench into my plans. So what I'm going to have to do is get my materials list, my specifications, my scope of work done so that I can have my subcontractors look at them, bid on them, then fill out the building permit applications after I've chosen those main subs. Now, granted, I probably won't have to choose all of my subs before completing the building permit application. But at least those main mechanical subs, those main subcontractors that will work on the house. Again, it's the electrical, the mechanical, which I think is the HVAC, and also the plumbing subcontractor. Smaller subs like the painters and the carpenters, the finished carpenters, and people such as that. I don't think I have to choose those, but I do need to know those main subs before filling out the permit application. So my attention is going to be changed to getting my materials list and my scope of work and my specifications done so that I can at least get those things to those main subs so that I can figure out who I'm going to use for the project. Then I can fill out the building permit application. What I also talked about the building inspector about when I was in the office was whether I can get started on the dirt work that needs to be completed before we start the foundation. And he told me, no, I have to do the building permit before anything can happen. Now, the truth of the matter is that some people go ahead and do that dirt work before they get the building permit application. Actually, when I bought the property that I have, it had some excavation work done on it without a permit, and the building inspector said that's a no-no. So I don't want to upset him, obviously. I want to keep him in my good graces. So I'm going to go by the book. I'm going to fill out this application and then get the dirt work done. I also get my utilities put on site until the building application is done. So let me just tell you briefly about this application. I live in a small city, so mine, I assume, is probably a little bit shorter than yours. It's about 4 pages, and it has general information that you'd probably assume would be on a permit application. The street address, the lot number, the owner's name, the builder's name, and I would put my name down for the builder's name as owner builder. My driver's license number, date of birth, Also, like I told you before, it wants the names of the electrical, mechanical, and plumbing subcontractors. Then it also has spaces for lot value, building value, and total value, the number of stories my house will be, the number of bedrooms and bathrooms, the foundation type, and the square footage, heated and cooled, as well as the parcel size. So that's the number of acres or the total number of square feet that the lot is. There's a second page that talks about the Bill of Assurance Compliance Form. That's what it's called. And that's information for my subdivision, information from my Property Owners Association. And it includes the minimal square footage that's required for the neighborhood, the minimum percent of masonry that's required for the neighborhood, and the setbacks. The third page is a request for temporary to permanent power. And as you know, I think I talked about in one of the early episodes that you'll need temporary power, electricity, to be on your property so the subs can do the work that they need to, because they will need electrical tools to do the work that they need. And so this is a request for that power. And then the final page is something that I think is to protect builders who would be typically building for an owner. And it's called City Maintained Property Existing Damage Report. And so the builders would report what, quote, damage is already on the property before they start, so that the owner can't go back to the building inspector and say that the builder has caused this damage. If the builder, if you're using one, notices some, quote, damage on your property already, he's to list it on that last page. So that's I think it's a pretty simple building permit application. Yours may be more detailed and longer, but like I say, I live in a pretty small city, and so this is pretty simple. So I'm going to fill this out and get it back to the building inspector as soon as I can. I have some tasks to do before that, though, and that is to get my scope of work done, my specifications completed, and then I can fill this out when I decide on my electrician, my HVAC people, and my plumber. The last little thing I want to tell you before I go is that I have been going back and forth with the builder, who is a great guy and who knows so much, particularly about energy efficient design and building. I've been going back and forth with him about my project. I told him from the beginning that I just wanted him to be a consultant and not the actual builder or general contractor of this project. And initially he was on board and he agreed immediately and said, "Michelle, I'll do whatever you want me to do." Then after he saw the house plans and I guess, I don't know, after he thought about it for a little bit, he wrote me an email week before last, I think, and said that he really thought that he should be the general contractor or builder on the project, and that he wanted to do the project, but he wanted to be the builder, and he would actually give me a discount from his typical 15% fee, and he would cut that to 13%. So that's the cost of building. He would typically charge 15% of the cost to build, but he was willing to discount my fee to 13%. So remember, he'd be getting that 13% of the cost of building, plus he would get markups on materials and labor. And that is just not an arrangement I am interested in. And I think that if that works for you and you think that that's fair and you don't have the time or the interest in being your own general contractor, then you should definitely go for the best fee that you can negotiate for. It's just not something I'm interested in. I don't want a builder. I want a consultant. And so I emailed him back and told him that I appreciate him. I think he would be great for the job. I think that we would work well together, but I am interested in a consultant and not in a builder, and that I am not interested in a fee that's based on the percentage of my building expenses. So he emailed me back and said that that would be fine with him, that he would charge me a fee based on him helping me. Earlier, he told me that he had charged $100 per hour in the past. And I told him I thought that was a fair fee. So he also told me in that email that although he would be my consultant, he could not, quote, loan out his subcontractors to me because he would be using them for his own projects. And I completely understand that. I have my own list of subcontractors. So he won't be loaning me out his subcontractors. He told me he'd have to limit the time that he spends on my project. He can't visit daily and he'd have to limit his visits. And I understand that, but that he would take on the consultant role. So that's where we are. I am creeping forward. I am not moving forward nearly as quickly as I thought that I would be. There are so many things to do before you actually start building. And my naivete and my inexperience is probably slowing me down a bit, probably more than a bit, but it's okay. We live in a house. We don't have a lease. We can stay here as long as we want. And there is no rush. I have to keep telling myself there is no rush. I'd rather it be done right than done fast. So that's your update. I hope everything's going well with you. I hope that in another few weeks, I will be telling you about a couple of more steps that I've taken forward. But right now, that's where we are. Next week, we'll either have a mini lesson or an interview. So I hope you'll join me again for the next episode of Build Your House Yourself University by BYHYU. Please remember that the purpose of this podcast is simply to educate and inform. It's not a substitute for professional advice. The information that you hear is based only on the opinions, research, and experiences of my guests and myself. That information might be incomplete, it's subject to change, and it may not apply to your project. In addition, building codes and requirements vary from region to region, so always consult a professional about specific recommendations for your home.